You've found a great case that discusses your issue, but how do you know if it's valid law? You can use Westlaw's KeyCite to determine whether a case, statute, or regulation is still good law. If there's no symbol found in front of your case name, then it is still good law. But what if you come across a yellow flag like the one in front of Collier v. Zambito? A yellow flag indicates that that case has some negative treatment, but hasn't been reversed or overruled. Negative treatment could mean that the reasoning of the decision in the case was criticized by another decision, or another decision might say that the cases were distinguishable and that this case was limited only to a specific set of facts. The bottom line is, these cases are still valid. We just need to take a deeper dive into the cases that pose as negative treatment to anticipate any potential holes in our legal argument. Let's do that now. Click on the yellow flag or the negative treatment tab. You'll find a list of all the decisions that treat the document you are viewing negatively in some way or another. Now make sure your detail settings are set to most detail. Select the bar icon at the top of the page. Now, I not only can see the case name and treatment, but I can also see a summary of the main holding of the case, as well as where the Collier case appears within that decision. If I click on Collier as it appears in the Hastings case, I will be brought to the point in the Hastings case where the court explains that the fact patterns are indeed different. Now let's jump back to our negative treatment list. You also may have noticed that the Hastings case is marked as the most negative treatment. To identify the most negative case, Westlaw editors consider the nature of the treatment, court level, jurisdiction, and date. You can proceed to review the cases listed in the same manner as the Hastings case to pinpoint any points that might undermine your legal argument. Just know that yellow flags are common and are nothing to be afraid of in terms of validating a case. They're there to help us anticipate counter-arguments to the point of law that you're citing to, for example, Collier for. Let's take a real-world example. Let's say you're arguing a motion in front of a judge, and you've cited to Collier in support of your argument. When it's time for your adversary to make their argument, they allege that the facts of your case are much more similar to Hastings. In this scenario, we need to know what the Hastings case says in order to rebut that argument. That's what the negative treatment section is for. Now let's talk about some other KeyCite icons you might come across on Westlaw. If you see an icon that you're not familiar with, just select the Powered by KeyCite icon next to the Table of Authorities tab. You'll then find a description of what each icon indicates. So we've covered the yellow flag. Now what does the red flag mean? The red flag indicates that a case is no longer good for at least one point of law. Now there are several points of law discussed in any given case, and if a case has a red flag, it doesn't mean that they're all no longer valid points. It simply means that you can't cite to that case for that point or points that have since been overruled or reversed by another decision. Now here's where you have to dig a little deeper. If you want to use a case with a red flag in front of it, you must review the case or cases that treat it negatively, and you can use the headnotes and synopsis to do this efficiently, to see which points in your case are no longer valid. Think of it this way. If you're on a Bumble date and you see or hear a red flag, how do you respond? You might perk up, or maybe your spidey senses are triggered, but you don't necessarily take off running, right? You typically let the person explain themselves, maybe try to get to know them a little better. But if it's a deal breaker, you move on. Now do the same thing with cases on Westlaw. If the reason you're citing to the case is for a point of law that's been overruled or reversed by another case, then keep it moving. You might also come across the white and blue stripe flag in your research. This KeyCite icon indicates a case is pending appeal in the U.S. Courts of Appeals or Supreme Court. Nothing to be alarmed about here, but just keep an eye on this case because its validity could be changing depending on how the higher court decides the appeal. Last, we have the overruling risk warning. To learn more about overruling risk, take a look at my next video, How Do I Ensure the Case I'm Citing to is Valid? Part 2, Overruling Risk. Looking for additional training opportunities? Sign into your Westlaw account on lawschool.tr.com and learn about upcoming events and webinars. Complete interactive learning modules on Westlaw's Knowledge Center, or reach out to your account manager under the Contact Us tab for help.